Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. Chad Himes here, joined by my friend Bob Stewart. Bob, how are you doing today?
Chad, I'm kind of excited for our guest. I mean, I'm easily excitable, but maybe it's just that I'm at that place in my own life, Chad, where only recently, and maybe I'll talk with this about this with our guest, have started to think about why she's here to talk to us today, and so I don't know. For me, that today's conversation is kind of appropriately timed.
Yeah, it's very appropriately timed for me, Bob, having just hit that milestone and turned 50. And I'm going to be drinking my protein shake during this call to focus on my health. I know that our guest today is going to definitely be talking about some of these things that we have going on that are concerns for people like you and I, shall we just say, which of course means our whole audience out there. Because, well, Bob, you're the everyman. So let's get right to it. And I love it because we're going to introduce our guest. And again, we're going to let you then introduce yourself to our audience. I'm not going to read your bio or anything like that. And I'm setting it up, Bob, because, well, her name's just awesome.
I got to get the story on the name.
Yeah, quick. We'll have to get the story on the name. Yet we want to bring to our call to the Win, Make, Give podcast, Sharkie Zartman. And Sharkie, I love it. What a killer name. No pun intended on that. Sharkie, welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
Sharkie, when you have names like Bob and Chad, anybody have a cool name, you're like, you're it.
Wait a minute. My name used to be cool. I used to be the only Chad I knew. Now there's way too many of us, whatever that could be. Sharkie, do me a favor and introduce yourself to our audience. Let them know who they're about to hear from during this interview today.
Yes, well, I'm Sharkie Zartman, and I'm a professor of health and fitness and a former All-American volleyball athlete and coach. And I just, love empowering my students, my athletes. And now I'm getting into the seniors with the Win Aging idea, because a lot of people, when they get to be a certain age, they start to get a little concerned, right? Right. And I want people to know that at any age, they can have a joyful life. They can enjoy their life, but it takes work. It takes work, like an athlete prepares for a sport. And that's what I'm trying to promote, because it seems like we have a real bad attitude about aging in our society. And I want to flip that.
I think that's a great thing, Sharkie, that you want to do. Like I said, I just hit that 50 milestone just a few weeks ago when we recorded, depending on when this episode actually drops. I'm in the best health of my life at 50. Let me ask you this before Bob gets the story of the name, because he's going to then take us off a tangent and say, all right, I just want to know where Sharkie came from. Before we even get to that, you said when people hit a certain age, have you noticed that? I remember 50 was a big number. It wasn't to me. I just kind of, whatever, age is age. I've always believed that. Is there a certain age where you see really a lot of people hit that psychological wall of aging?
I think it happens for a lot of people in their early 40s. I got a phone call the other day, a while back, from my daughter. It was her birthday. And I go, happy birthday, sweetie. And she goes, oh, Mom, I'm depressed. And I go, why? And she goes, because I just turned 40. Oh, my God. And so I think it's happening, at a younger age than 50, than you, where people really start to notice some differences. It's like they can't get away with everything in their life anymore. They have to start to pay the price. You can't stay out all night and feel good the next day as you get older, right? And so it's kind of,
that's a fact. Sharkie, physically, I think it happens, Chad, like to your question, physically, it happens whenever it happens, Sharkie, right? Like right. I'm 44. I have two small young children. I have a 4 and a 5-year-old. I also have a 14-year-old. But for me, that happens like when one of my boys like grabs me in a way and I turn and I'm like, oh, I wasn't supposed to do that, right? Like, so I think physically it's just going to happen when your body, Chad, for you, it's going to be later because you are in the best, shape of your life right now. But mentally, Sharkie, where it happened for me mentally? When my grandma passed away. When my last grandparent passed away, And my mom and her siblings became that next generation and so for my family, I could see that like that progression, right? I'm like, my grandma's gone. All my grandparents are gone. My mom and my aunts and my uncles are that next line.
Right.
Then I'm up.
Right.
So I think psychologically, that's when it happened for me, which happened to be in my early 40s, only like 4 years ago. I lost my grandma, but is there anything to that? Am I abnormal? Like,
no.
Yes, you are abnormal.
all right.
There might be nothing abnormal
for other reasons. No, I think that's a realization that most of us are going to experience, and it's just part of life. It's part of life. But the aging part of it is something that I really do think we need to redefine and change the paradigm. I like to think about aging as a challenge, an opportunity, and a privilege. I mean, it's kind of like, look at all the people that didn't make it this far. I'm 71, sure. And so many people that I know have passed away. And I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, and I'm still here. So I feel like I've been given the gift of time. I have more time to spend with my loved ones, my families, to explore, to travel, to give back and to leave a legacy. And a lot of my friends didn't get that opportunity. So really, as you get older, once you start making your health a priority and your happiness, it can be a good time. Trust me. And so,
and here at Win Make Give, it's the tag, right? It's health, wealth, leadership, and legacy. We know it all starts with health. And when someone reaches out to me and says, hey, we've got a new book and it's called Win at Aging, that just screams win, make give, right? I mean, that's our whole thing, Bob, here in season 2. It's winning. So winning at aging. Sharkie, what does winning at aging just mean as a general concept for everybody?
It means to be able to enjoy your life regardless of age. That's exactly what it means. And so it's very general. It's very general. But what it does is it takes an empowered approach. It takes a proactive approach in terms of what can we do, not what can't we do. What can we control, not what we can't control. Because I think everybody's getting pulled down by, the paradigm of aging as being an eventual period of decline. And people are scared of that.
Sharkie, I think I was never an athlete at the level you were an athlete at. Like you, I see that you played volleyball in Russia. Like when they were still communists. You were playing against the communists over there.
Yes.
So you were an all-American volleyball player in college. Like you were a top athlete. I could dunk a basketball when I was in high school, but and then there became a time when I couldn't anymore. Sharkie, does do those things that we can't control, or I guess maybe I could have extended how long I could have dunked a basketball for, right? But eventually your balance breaks down, your muscles can't, develop at the same, eventually time or age catches up with you. Talk to me from somebody that, look, I don't know if you can still spike a volleyball like you used to be able to back in your prime, but our bodies just break down. So I guess emotionally or psychologically, how did you deal with that as somebody that was an elite athlete that, at some point, no matter how long it took, couldn't do those things any longer?
Right. I got to tell you, it was hard because volleyball was my passion. That's all I wanted to do. And so it was hard, but I wore out the warranty on my knees.
Sure.
And so,
should be expected.
Yeah. And if I couldn't play at the level I was playing anymore, I couldn't play recreationally. And so what I did was I went into coaching. And so I coached for over 12 years, young kids and college students. And so I still got to be in the sport. And so it was really still fun for me. But then I got into other things that I never would have gotten into if I could still play volleyball. I got into yoga. I'm teaching yoga now. At the college, I brought it in and to seniors, and I love it. And I'm also writing books. I never did that stuff before. So for me, instead of kind of going, God, I can't play volleyball anymore and I want to, I found other things that I wanted to explore. And now I love them in my life. So it's not always a bad thing when you can't do something you could do when you were young. So
take me back to that transition? Let's just say from like out of coaching volleyball, for example, and you're transitioning out. Are you realizing you're leaving a passion behind and you may never pick that passion up again? Are you like not even worried about that? You're stepping into this new horizon of doing the yoga thing, or like, what is your mindset in that time when you're kind of, I don't know. I mean, in some ways leaving a life behind, in some ways, I think as a result of just getting a little bit older, right?
Right.
Aging.
Right.
What was that like? Kind of what was your mindset during that time?
Again, it was hard because, some of my friends were still playing and I couldn't because I had to have knee surgery. And, it was hard. I'm not going to tell you it was easy. It just was, it wasn't. But I realized that I had a lot of potential to do other things. The teaching and the coaching have always been a great thing. My husband and I have done that together for many years. And I also wrote a book on coaching volleyball and, a book on youth sports. And so I feel like I'm still involved in athletics, just not as a competitor anymore, but I still have that competitive spirit. And if you ever were to read the book, Win at Aging, it takes an athletic point of view, because athletes love to win, but they train for it and they're tough. They have resilience. They know that you always don't get to win. They know when you get knocked down, you get back up. And, aging is a challenge. And a lot of people, they complain all the time. I just see people my age that I don't even want to be around them because you say, hey, how you doing? And all they do is complain. And so I changed. I don't ask that question anymore. I say, hey, what's new and good? And they don't know what to say.
That's funny. We had a podcast. Well, he has a podcast on our podcast network, Clint Swindoll. Tell Me Something Good is the name of the podcast. And he never asked people, hey, how's it going? Because half the time you're going to get, what does he call them, Chad? The oh no's? The oh no.
There's definitely the oh no's, yes.
Right. So he asked, hey, tell me something good, which forces me to have a little bit of a positive mindset. Yeah. I love that.
Right.
You mentioned a lot of things in there, Sharkie, and talking about the athlete's mindset and all of that. And I definitely want to jump into that. Now, folks, if you're already into this conversation saying, I want to keep hearing more from Sharkie, then I want to let you know you probably should also be listening to our podcast, The 15-Point Plan. So you can go to 15pointplan.com or you can find it anywhere we do podcasts, because that's where Jolene Snell and I focus on health and happiness specifically on that podcast. Ben and Bob didn't really want to talk health too often, so they made us launch our own podcast for that. So, folks, if you're listening, you might want to check that one out. Now,
you want to have Diet Cokes, Charlie? I can't have no Diet Cokes on my.
No, right. Sharkie, protein shake, right? Okay.
Yes.
Here you go. You were talking about how people attack aging, or how you wrote it in the book, Attacking Aging Like an Athlete. And I'd love to come back to all of those things. And I know you're going to give me about 20 of them because you just rambled a few of them off, the way they're competitive, the way they're this, they train for it and all of that. The one thing I know about most athletes, whether it's an individual sport or not, an athlete knows how to surround themselves with a team. Whether it's Michael Jordan with the Bulls, whether it's Wayne Gretzky with the Oilers, or whether it's, Usain Bolt with his trainers and his health crew or whatever, even though you might not see them, or Tiger Woods with the other people who helped him, whatever. Talk about how we can attack aging with a successful team around us that's going to help make that journey easier and stronger.
Right. I always say that it's kind of neat when we get old. Well, when we were younger, if you wanted to be on a team, you had to try out. Sometimes you didn't make it. Teams were chosen by other people. Okay. But I tell people to choose. They are in a position where they can choose their own team now. Okay. The people that bring them down, that don't help them, find somebody else. And this includes our friends. Some of our friends have worn out their warranty on. I mean, it's just, I'm ready to say, okay, bye. I'm tired of being around, listening to some of them complain.
You hear that, friends? If any of my friends are listening to this podcast, Sharkie, right now, they're on the clock, right? The complainers are on the clock.
Yeah, exactly.
If Bob isn't answering you, you know why. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. I told one person once, they were complaining, and I go, maybe if you stop complaining about your life, it'll get better.
Yeah.
And that person just kind of looked at me like, what? What did you just say?
It's one of those like, it is what you think it is, right? If you're going to complain about it all day, it will be that.
Yeah. What you focus on expands is true in that regard. And so, Sharkie, obviously, there are people we don't want on our teams.
Mm-hmm.
I got to imagine a good doctor would be somebody who should be on our team.
Right.
A good, maybe even a good masseuse, good whatever. Who are some of the people that make up that aging team if we were going to have like the quarterback, the wide receiver? Who are some of those pieces that make up a strong aging team for us?
Well, we're the captain. Okay. And so, yes. So we get to choose our teams. And, obviously our medical team is important. And I'm so surprised by people that have doctors that they can't talk to. I mean, doctors are, they're really busy these days. I understand that, but I want to be able to ask questions, voice my concerns. And to some people, that's not important. They just want the medical treatment, or they want their prescriptions or whatever. But I want somebody that I can talk to. And I want a doctor that also, is supportive of the other things I do for my health. Okay. Like, I have a chiropractor, I have a massage therapist. All those people are important, and we get to choose them. Okay. And we should, because, we can't do this alone. We need a team. And so.
Excellent. All right. So let's go back to that athlete mindset that you were talking about earlier as we were, that got me into the whole thing about the team. Let's talk about that athletic mindset and how athletes are in training and they want to win and stuff. Talk to us about winning at aging with the athlete's mindset that anybody can adopt, whether they're an athlete or not.
Well, first of all, I think you have to be passionate about your sport. Okay. And nobody's really passionate about aging, but we're all going to do it, right? Okay. We're lucky. And so we have to realize the importance that we need to take this seriously, like an athlete, takes a sport seriously. And one of the things that I really think is important is to be consistent with our training, like with our diets, okay, with our exercise, the physical things. When the mental aspect is really important. Any athlete goes out on the field thinking that they have a chance to win. They're not going out there thinking, oh gosh, what if I lose? A successful athlete always thinks they're going to win, and they always try. And even if they don't win, they learn from that, and then they get another chance at it. That's what we're doing with aging. Okay, we get knocked down, and then we get another try. We get to try harder this time, and so it's a process. And also, all athletes can take criticism. Okay, they will listen to other people. They're not, they're not just so into themselves that they can't open up and experience other people's ideas or suggestions. And so,
the high level ones anyway. I mean, the ones the high level ones are like that.
High level ones.
There's some ones that have a ton of talent that are act the opposite of what you're describing.
I'm talking about high level athletes.
Good point, Bob. You're right.
I mean, I can think of a few athletes that have talent that got somewhere on their talent, but they're not willing to take suggestions, Sharkie, and they don't end up becoming the elite athletes, right?
They don't reach their potential.
Yeah.
So, like I said, you can't do it yourself. You need a team. You need a coach. Okay. You need to have support. And I just really believe that the athletic mindset is determined. It's determined. It doesn't accept. They experience failure, but they don't accept it. Okay. They use it to get better. And that's what I'm seeing from a lot of people in aging is they're just accepting the way they feel, the way they look as being part of aging. And I can't stand that because we know a lot of people who are beating it, who are still living their lives and enjoying their lives, but they work at it. They're, aging is going to happen to all of us. Okay. We can't escape it, but we can control it through our lifestyle and our attitudes. And that's being proactive. That's being empowered because however long we're here, we can enjoy our lives every day. My dad's 97, and he says every day above the ground can be a good day. Don't waste it. Isn't that cool?
I like that.
You've said it a few different times in a few different ways about it's always a blessing, right? That we're still here, that we have that opportunity to age, that right. And we need to look at it that way, not I'm still stuck here and I can't feel my knees or whatever. It's, hey, you could not feel that pain in your knees. So why don't you figure out how to do something about that?
Exactly.
If we took our body, Sharkie, and turned it into different parts of a team, like this is my left arm's the running backs and my right arm is the, wide receivers or whatever. Which part is the quarterback? Like which part is that part we've got to protect the most when it comes to all of us? There's two parts. I'm hoping you're going to pick one of them, but there's two parts I'm torn between. Where do you say the single most important part is of us to be protecting to succeed at aging?
The brain.
Okay. That was one of the two I figured you
The heart would be the other one.
The heart was going to be my other guess. Yeah, absolutely. So talk to us about that. Why do you, as someone who's a professor at this, someone who's been involved in this for years, why is it the brain that you pick?
Because of the mind-body connection. The mind-body connection. You can never get away from that. It's kind of like your body cells are listening to what's going on between your ears. And if it's always negative, okay, your cells are going to react to that. And so having a positive mindset, having a driven mindset, taking good care of your brain so that you have cognitive functioning. I mean, there's so much new research now on the brain and how exercise can help prevent things like Alzheimer's and dementia. I mean, it's really exciting research. So I think the brain is number one. Obviously, our heart, our muscles, for our mobility, our nervous system. I mean, it's in our body is a team. Our body is a team. But I think we when people start talking about how they want to get better, they focus on losing weight. They focus on, getting their muscles bigger and stronger, but nobody goes upstairs. So that's number one, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm in a program over on the 15-Point Plan podcast. Jolene and I had the opportunity to interview Coach Action Jackson Bloor. So folks, you should go find that episode over on the 15-Point Plan. And I joined his coaching program. And it's interesting, as you're saying that, Sharkie, I'm kind of making a mental connection. There's a Facebook group for all of us that are in the program. Yes, we're working on losing weight and building muscle. That's what the program is. It's about developing six-pack abs. That's what we're all working towards. And I actually can see that happening at 50 for the first time in my life. Yet so many people are going through failure and struggle in the group. And it's not they can't lift the weight. It's the mental challenge of changing the nutrition plan or sticking to the daily routine of it. And I'm just blessed that I have that positive mindset. So when I got into it, I thought, no, okay, lifting the weight's going to be the challenge, or doing the diet that came with it was the challenge. But so many of those people, it's the mental state that we really need to overcome anything, and having that athlete mindset, which says, I'm going to win, I'm that good.
Mm-hmm. Also people give up too soon. If they don't get the quick results that they're expecting, a lot of people will just give up. And I think persistence is really, really important. You just stay after it. You don't quit on anything that you really want. Sometimes it's a longer road that has detours. Okay.
Yeah, but Sharkie, there's a whole industry out there that's promising me if I just take this pill, I just wear this little belt that shakes on my belly, that I'll lose the weight. We are inundated with this. Obviously, I think if I'm out there making a widget that's going to purport to make you healthier or weigh less or whatever, there's this entire industry around just trying to sell us stuff on the back of us being scared about aging. And I think it's coming at us like fast and furious all the time. Yeah. Right? Like how has that always been like this? Has it gotten worse as these phones are in our face all the time and social media? Like, what's your opinion on just...
Before you answer that, Sharkie, I just Googled something while Bob was saying it because I just had to know the number. And Bob, the anti-aging products market in the United States of America is estimated at $11.6 billion last year.
Yeah.
I just, the way you were saying it, I just had to know what the number was because, I knew it was going to be massive. So, Sharkie, what's your take on $11.6 billion industry saying, take our pills or do this or do that to not age?
Well, we've been dealing with that for a long time with weight loss, right? Like you said, take these pills and you'll lose 10 pounds in a week, right?
Right.
Well, if they make me throw up all the time, I guess it would work.
So we're used to that. And so we're used to taking pills instead of changing our choices. We want to make it easy. We want to take a pill. We don't want to have to go out and walk for a half hour. We want the pill to do the work, right? Okay. And so the same thing when it comes to aging. Okay. You show me a pill that is going to, take 10 years off my life, I'm tempted to take it.
Me too, Sharkie.
But it's not going to work.
I know. Those pills never come with a refund, like 100% refund proposal or nothing.
You try to get a refund and they're gone.
If you pay attention to their videos, the before and after person isn't even the same person.
That's right. That's
before and after picture, right? So, okay. So, Sharkie, let's talk nutrition because nutrition is also key in this battle. And I'm Bob and Ben, they just laugh at me all the time. I will sit there and I have X number of pretzels in front of me and X because I'm hitting my macros just right. Meanwhile, they're ordering, I don't know, fried foods, whatever, being delivered over. And Bob walks in the other day. I'm out and Bob, I think he had like a whole pizza box, right? And
whatever.
It was gone by the time we were done recording that day. And Bob's onto it. He's cut back on his cinnamon roll intake. He only eats one a day now instead of two. Right?
I'm fortunate. I have good genes. Like my dad cursed me though. He told me when I turned 45, it was all going to fall apart, and then I'd actually have to watch what I'm eating. And so I've got 1 year. I'm trying to get it all in, Chad.
There you go. You're drinking your Diet Coke. I'm over here enjoying my protein shake. Talk to us and talk to our audience, Sharkie, about some simple tips, whether they're 60, 50, 40, 30, or whatever, just some general nutrition stuff that's going to help them when it comes to aging and winning there.
I would say the first thing is to really try to cut down on processed foods. We are overwhelmed with processed foods. So they're marketed. They just have all the bells and whistles, in terms of the packaging. And, I'm concerned about this for older individuals, but also for our kids. And so, the amount of sugar and the additives, the preservatives. So I would say that would be number one. If you could cut those things out of your diet. And the second thing, I don't think people should do strict dieting. I am more into what's called an 80-20 program. If you eat good 80% of the time, you can add to 20% of the foods that are not so nutritious. But most of my students that I have at the college, they flip that. They're eating bad 80% of the time, only good 20% of the time.
What are you looking at, Chad?
Bob, I'm just looking at
you're looking right at me. Is that where you're looking at me?
He's looking at you.
Just looking at the screen, Bob. I swear, I'm just looking at the screen.
I saw you nod your head and kind of tilt it a little bit to the side, like here.
Jolene and I, again, folks, if you're enjoying any of the information Sharkie's giving you, you have to check out the 15-point plan for your own good. Jolene and I just did an episode where we debated the cheat meal, right? And she was like, well, I don't like it being called. We both agreed in the long run to give it away, right? She just doesn't like the term cheat meal. But what it came down to was, look, if you can eat healthy 90% of the time, take 10% of the time and have that pizza. Take 10% of the time and have those.
Better. 80-20 sounds way better.
Like mine better? Okay.
Of course, Bob likes that better because there's 10 more percent of getting off the track. Yeah. So processed foods and just overall, if most of the stuff were healthy, then don't beat ourselves up when we're having something that's just yummy.
Right. Because whenever you go on a diet, if it's really strict, you can't stay on it for very long because most of them, first of all, they don't have all the nutrients. There's always, ones that are missing that are important. And secondly, you just can't, you can't be good that long. So you start dreaming about Big Macs,
Well, Want to know who I blame? I blame two things.
Why are you looking at me when you say that, Bob?
For my poor eating habits, it's capitalism and my parents, right? Because I was always taught as a young kid, you got to finish whatever's on your plate. And now with capitalism, Sharkie, you show up in these restaurants, they put so much stinking food on your plate. It's like, that's not a portion.
No,
I know.
Right? Like,
I know.
2 to 3 servings are on every plate. When
what? I was raised, Chad. I listened to my mom. She told me to eat it all. I got to eat it.
All right, Mom, we know you're listening, so this is obviously your fault. Bob has to take ownership and start making some changes.
Yeah,
so I think that's some great tips for nutrition. Sharkie, I want to ask you one question. I know Bob's been holding back one question. So folks, you're going to have to wait till the end of the podcast to get the answer as to the name, because I mean, it's her name and it's awesome, yet how she ended up getting it. But let's hold that one. So everybody has to stay tuned. Sharkie, I want to ask you this. We make donations on honor of our guests for Win, Make, Give in season 2. We're really living up to that give. And we want to donate to a charity as a thank you for the time you're spending with us today. What charity is it we can make a donation to?
St. Jude's Hospital.
Love it. It's a great one. Okay.
Love it.
So
I think we've had a couple of at least one other person go with that charity.
Yes, we have made a donation before, and we will make a donation again to St. Jude's. We appreciate you taking that time and joining us. Before I'm saving Bob's question for last, and we're going to make everybody hang on for it. I want to ask you, what's the one question we haven't asked you that we should in regards to winning at aging that our audience needs to hear?
What's the opportunity in aging? I told you that I see aging as a challenge, an opportunity, and a privilege. The opportunity is to maybe finally do what we really want to do. The guys your age, you still have things that, you have your jobs, you have your families, and, you might not be putting yourself first, okay? When you get to be my age, you better put yourself first, okay? And so I really believe that people need to make their health and happiness a priority. And now's the time. Okay? The time is now.
Okay.
So I'm gonna ask you about the name before we leave. But I'm selfishly, I've been looking at some of the other books you've written, and I just want to ask you one question. You have a book called "So You Think You Can Coach Kids."
Oh yeah,
right.
Uh-huh.
I coach children. I just started. I've got a 4 and a 5-year-old, so I coached my 5-year-old son's basketball team when he was like a couple years ago, right before COVID started. In fact, we were in the middle of basketball season when COVID kind of stopped us. And I've coached their t-ball last. Both of the boys played t-ball. So I'm like, just because I got you, Aaron, you've written a book about it. Give me those 1 or 2 things that I should be really mindful of coaching kids.
Oh, I'm so glad you
Maybe
asked.
it's like one big thing that you see. It's just a pitfall.
I'm going to give you 2 things. Number one is that age group has to be fun.
Yeah.
It has to be fun. This is not their job. Number 2, I would say, I actually have 3. Number 2, make sure you teach them the fundamentals. Because a lot of coaches at the young ages are not teaching them fundamentals, just basics. Okay. Yeah. And number 3, don't focus so much on winning. Focus more on their development as athletes. Okay. Because I think adults focus too much on, the championships, the medals, even college scholarships when the kids are 5, and so.
All right. I'll stop throwing my clipboard at practice.
Yes. Stop.
I'll stop screaming at little Jimmy to get his ass in here.
Bob's the only reason he's coaching the kids is so he can still slam on their nets 2 feet high.
The low hoops, Sharkie. All right, where'd the name come from? I read on your website that your dad gave you the name, but was there any was he just a shark fisherman, or what's going on with the name?
No, we were all born and given pretty French names: Maureen, Charlene, Kathleen, Janine. And my dad gave us all nicknames. Okay, Moe, Jinx, Kath, and Sharkie. And so I never really thought that much of it until I went down to the beach with my family a few times. I was in the water and my sister came down to get me and she's going, Sharkie, get out of the water. And everybody, screaming. I'm going, what? I know I have a weird name, but I love it. It's different. People kind of step back when they hear my name, but they usually don't forget it.
Sure, I was just going to say, that's one of those names you never forget. If I bumped into you one night and we had a 5-minute conversation, that's a name you remember 15 years later.
Right.
Meanwhile, I'm over here, I tell people my name is Bob, and half the people don't believe me. They're like, you're not a Bob. Like, I got an Uncle Bob, but you don't look like him. I'm like, oh, that's who I am. Like, here's my ID. Do you want to get...
Well, Bob, you're rememberable as well, even if your name is not. And Sharkie, that is a name everyone will remember. Something else that I want everyone else out there to remember is that you visit us at our Facebook group, which is facebook.com/group/win-make-give, where we continue these conversations after the episodes. We want to get your tips for winning at aging, and we want you to come into the Facebook group and share. We also don't want you to forget to share this episode with someone out there who needs to hear it, and check out the other podcasts that are a part of the Win, Make, Give podcast.
Never heard of it. Quit pitching your other podcast on Win, Make, Give.
I was going to pitch Clint there and Bill Town and all the others, Bob. But thanks. All right. Just go to winmakegive.com where you can get the links to all of them. Sharkie, we are not going to forget the name. We're not going to forget the laughs and the lessons shared today. We really appreciate you taking the time and joining us and sharing with our Win, Make, Give audience today.
Thanks so much. It was great.
On behalf of Bob, Ben, Dave, hiding behind the scenes, all of us here at Win, Make, Give, we want to remind you, until our next episode, do good.